How did you get to New York?
I got to New York. I just came here for college. I grew up in Boise, Idaho. And a big thing I thought about when I was applying to colleges is if I could live anywhere, where would I want to live? And try to find schools in those areas. And so for me, definitely felt like, oh my God, if I could live in New York, I would love to live in New York. So I ended up coming to NYU.
What was the appeal? What was so appealing about New York?
I think, where I grew up, there were no big cities. Like Boise is like a suburb of nowhere. So the closest cities would be like Seattle, Portland, Denver, which are all a long ways away.
Yeah.
And my family had visited. I think I had always been interested in New York, partially just because, I don't know, you grew up watching like the Today Show and SNL and stuff and just feeling like, oh man, New York. And then my family visited when I was in high school and I felt immediately like, oh yeah, like I love this. This is great. I remember seeing an NYU tram and being like, what? Like, those kids are not that much older than me and they just live here. And that, I think, planted the seed that could even be a possibility.
What was the feel when you got here that was like, oh, this place is for me?
Visiting?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's maybe just something that some people really respond to or not, because I definitely had at different points like roommates or friends here in school that were like, this stresses me out. I feel so isolated. I don't like this. Don't like the weather. Don't like the, whatever. I felt the opposite where I love the change of seasons. There's something about it that feels kind of like inherently dramatic a little bit. I think also I can be kind of a like homebody, so it's nice to have the natural counterbalance of like, nope, it just forces you to be up and out and in the human mix every day in a nice way that to me feels like comforting. And just like a little infusion of energy or momentum or something. And also just like there's so much here, It's fun.
What is Boise, Idaho like? I mean, I know it's a big question, but for you, how do you describe it to people who I'm sure have probably never met anyone from Idaho?
Yeah. I mean, first off, for a lot of folks on the East Coast, I've learned that there's a perception that Idaho is in the Midwest. It's not. Idaho is the Northwest, the Mountain West. So it's more like Montana or something in how you would picture the terrain, where it's mountainous and rivers and beautiful outdoorsiness. So I think growing up, a lot of people, it's like big like ski town. Like people are skiing, people are kayaking. That's the vibe. And it's beautiful. Like it's a really beautiful place, but it's also pretty homogenous and pretty limited, I would say, on the cultural front. They have a lovely little contemporary theater there, Boise Contemporary Theater, and they have a beautiful outdoor amphitheater Shakespeare Festival on the river called the Idaho Shakespeare Festival. So I was involved with those things when I was growing up, but that's kind of it. Yeah.
How early were you into performing?
Early. I think like probably I think is the case with a lot of people I know who end up doing it as, for their life, was like not a like outgoing like ham class clown kid. I was shy. And my family's extremely athletic. So there was always a big like sports focus.
Yeah.
But I liked doing little stuff at like, at like school or church or whatever. And then when I was in junior high, I think that was like a big turning point of like, okay, I think my identity is shifting from being like sports to being like, what if it's the arts? What if that's my thing? And so I did, I like took a class. I think I was trying to take a Shakespeare class and they didn't have it on the calendar or something. And my mom was like, all they have is an improv class. So I said, sure, I'll do that. Took this improv class when I was 11 that was connected to the Idaho Shakespeare Festival and loved it. And then a couple years later started doing improv downtown Boise at a comedy club on Tuesday nights with a short form group called the Foul Puppets. Yeah, and like loved it and was like, oh, this is by far my favorite thing in my life. Yeah, so that I think was a powerful like compass that I felt when I was thinking about like, yeah, going away to school or going away to kind of become an adult.
What did you love about it?
I think I liked part of what I really liked at that age was knowing that I was like pretty reserved and that I would get feedback from people where they'd be like, what? Like that felt like cool. That felt like, okay, like I'll MC the talent show or something at my school and my teachers will be like, we had no idea that you were like that. That I think felt like a powerful, like secret self, you know, to
Totally.
be like, yeah, I am like that. I'm crazy if I want to be. And then I think like it was just fun. Like the people that I did it with at first were like older and it felt very cool where it's like truly the comedy club we would perform at would leave the back door unlocked for us on Saturdays and we just let ourselves in, turn on the stage lights and rehearse. And that was really fun where it felt like, oh, we're a bunch of like teenagers screwing around, but also we all take it seriously. And that combination was very like intoxicating, I feel like, of like everybody here really cares. We could just let ourselves in here and dick around for 3 hours, but we're not. We're going to run scenes. We're going to run stuff. We're going to give notes. We're going to talk about it and break it down and try to get better. And that amount of pressure or that type of little pressure was great. Or felt like being on a sports team or something. And then, yeah, I think just feeling like, oh, this is like it's a perfect, like, you can get better at it. It is like anything where it's like, oh, that's like very fun to have that little challenge or to feel like, oh.
To improve.
I want to improve. Yeah, I want to constantly be improving. I want to have a better show this week than I had last week and be always sort of like driving towards that. I think is like very engaging.
When you were that reserved when you were younger, do you feel like you always knew you had this other side to you, the crazy side, the outgoing side, the performative side, or was that a surprise to you as you started doing this?
I think I knew that I did, but I maybe assumed that everybody did. Maybe everybody does, you know, like had some, but I think like, yeah, I think finding a permission structure in which to like experience it with other people rather than a just like, oh, this is just a like private thing that I know about myself and assume is probably true of different people in other forms that I'll never witness. That like that finding a way to do it with other people was cool.
Did you get the sense in high school that you already knew this was going to be where you were going to try to take your adult life? How did that unfold?
Yeah, I think so. Or I think it like I had definitely sort of a back and forth feeling, I think, for many years in that zone of like, could I do it? It feels so exciting to think that I could try to spend my life this way. Like, I didn't know anybody that had, you know, like that's that, like the idea that that could be a pursuit that you build your life around is like crazy. Whereas like I, you know, for whatever reasons, we're like, I kind of always thought the options were lawyer or teacher because my dad's a lawyer and my mom's a teacher. And that was like, whoa, okay, that would be amazing. But then also, you know, sort of checked by a reality in which it's like, yeah, no, most people don't do that. So it feels a little hubristic to think that I could. And especially, yeah, being in like Idaho or whatever, where it's like, how, where, what, you know, I think kind of felt like, oh, surely I will be checked on this. But then once I got into school out here was kind of like, okay, there are people who do this here. That made it feel a little more tangible, perhaps.
When you're in high school, I assume you continue doing improv fairly consistently during that time. Were you also into other kinds of performance?
Yes. In high school, I apprenticed at the Idaho Shakespeare Festival. So that was a big part of my life at that time too, was like Shakespeare stuff, theater stuff. Yeah.
So those two things, Shakespeare and improv, were kind of the two primary focuses for you?
Yes. And swimming.
But
yes, yeah, totally.
when you applied to NYU, did you know about a major or a path at the university that would help that trajectory? How were you thinking about that at the time?
Yes. So NYU, the program that I found there ended up being kind of a sweet spot where it had the opportunity to be like, you will be in a conservatory BFA acting program, but you also will have some academic electives. So I think a lot of paths is either like, plenty of schools have like an acting major, but you take 1 or 2 acting classes a week. And it's not really the majority of your experience in a lot of cases. And then alternatively, there are places where it's like, this is a conservatory, it's, like Juilliard or whatever, like you only do this.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the like Tisch NYU program appealed to me to know like, no, it's like 3 very full days a week. You are in studio conservatory training. You are logging the hours and getting all sorts of different tools in that way that's very concentrated. But also, if you did need to pivot and apply to law school, you could.
Giving you options.
Yeah, you got those other 2 days to kind of kick around and do other classes. Yeah.
On the 3 days when you're focusing on it's acting, that's really what you were. So tell me about that. What were you doing?
So NYU has a weird program where they outsource you to different conservatory programs in the city that are professional training programs. So I came out here as a senior in college. My dad and I flew out and I auditioned. And then when you audition, you interview with the audition panel and they kind of suss out if you're accepted, which studio they would place you in. So I was placed in the Atlantic Acting Conservatory program. And so that, the days would be like, okay, we're there 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And in a given day, you would have, voice class, movement class, speech, in which you do lots of different like international phonetic alphabet stuff, like learning all sorts of different like dialect training or proper speech training. You would do several different scene study classes in a day where it's like, okay, for that program, we would know like, all right, you and your scene partner on Wednesday, you got to put up a new scene, and it would usually have specific parameters of like, it has to be from an American play that was published more recently than 1990. So after class, you go to drama bookstore and you're like combing through plays to try to find plays with decent scenes for 1 million 18-year-old women. And so you would like prep them and rehearse them at night with your scene partners and then bring them in to studio during the day to stage them and get feedback on them and talk about. That program was very script analysis based. So a lot of the discussion had to do with breaking scenes down, learning how to analyze them, and then learning how to execute them based on the text analysis.
Were you considering becoming an actress at that time?
Yeah, I think in my mind it went together where I think I knew that I was like, for me, it's comedy. Like I don't think I ever saw a version of myself at that point that was like, oh yeah, I'll be on like the regional Shakespeare circuit and I'll be, I think I knew at that point that it's like, nah, that's like, I like Shakespeare. I like drama. I like all of these different things. It's not my, like, I don't have the same relationship to it that I have to comedy, which is like, has always been intense, has always been like personal feeling. And at that time I was also doing a lot of comedy because I was doing improv at night. So knowing like, okay, in this conservatory program, I'm getting a ton of great tools. I'm learning a lot. And then I want to figure out how I can turn around and use these tools in my comedy work, whether it's sketch, whether it's like a comedic play or whatever it is, or auditioning for like television comedy, whatever it is. Like, I think I felt strongly that I was like, the comedy culture is for me more than the like theater culture in a lot of ways.
Tell me about the difference between that relationship you had between the Shakespeare work and the comedy work. You said you liked the Shakespeare work, but wasn't on the same level, it sounds like, in your mind, to the comedy? How did you know that you had a different relationship between the two?
I think I felt different about it. I think there was just something about like comedy that I just really loved, or I just like, that's what I love to watch. It's what I love to think about. So especially at that time, I would go to a Shakespeare show and be like, cool, great. Yeah, I'm into it. But it wouldn't feel the same as going to see a comedy show and just being like, I am so viscerally delighted by this. I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm analyzing it. I'm like, I cannot get enough of it. That just, I think, maybe held the distinction. And also, again, like the culture of it, I think I felt just personally, just like socially, knowing like if I'm with my like improv friends, it's fun. Yeah. And not because we're always like goofing around. It's like we are fighting about the things that I consider to be the right things. Like we're all taking this extremely seriously. But that's what I like. And so I want to fight about it because I have strong feelings about it. And it's like fun to be with other people that are similarly obsessed with the stuff that you're obsessed with. And it felt very aligned. And also knowing like, and then we can do bits and we can, we can take this very seriously without taking ourselves very seriously. And that I think felt very, I don't know, probably aligned with my family culture, honestly, of like, oh yeah, we can all kind of like, take the piss out of each other and have fun and just laugh a lot. And in the conservatory space that I was in, it just felt kind of
a little more
humorless.
Serious.
Yeah, just very like, okay, it's a lot of people that are taking this very, very seriously, that are very competitive about it. But I'm not really sold on the idea that anybody here really loves this. Like, I feel like a lot of it felt like, okay, a lot of people are here because they liked doing plays in high school more than they liked anything else. But they're kind of in real time realizing that what they like is maybe the costumes or, there's just like kind of a different thing. And I ended up, in a lot of settings just feeling like, oh, I can't, I don't know. People are all whipped up about something going on in the like social world here. I just can't care that much. I don't know. Like nothing happening here is that good. I don't know. Like,
yeah. When you were in high school and you were doing improv during that time, did you get feedback that gave you the confidence that drove the trajectory to New York to knowing you want to do comedy? Or was that more an internal knowing that was there from a pretty early age?
I think a mix. I think I got a couple of like key moments of feedback from people that I really like respected that made me feel like, okay, like I trust this person and they see me in this way and they're going to let me know. And that I can like eat off of that for like 2 years of wondering if this is for me,
What do you think they saw? I guess maybe another way to ask that is what kind of talents or abilities help make somebody, at least somewhat confident that they might be able to make a career out of this?
Yeah, I really don't know. Honestly, at that age, like, I really think the feedback I was getting at that age was just like probably more commenting on what I was doing a lot at that age, which was realizing like, okay, I read as like what I am. I'm a very like straight-laced teenage girl in Idaho. I have no edge. I have no, so if I make a choice in an improv scene to do something weird or very specific or dark or something, there's a tension there that people respond to. And so I think that was the sort of thing of like, oh, you're like a blonde 14-year-old bubbly, friendly girl, but you're not going to play that type. I think that got the attention of some like older people that I respected and being like, oh yeah, keep doing that. I don't think that was probably really like talent or skill or anything as much as it was just sort of like, well, I don't know. I don't want to play like a dum-dum. I don't like it.
So you're in New York and you're taking these rather serious acting classes. At nighttime, it sounds like you are still doing improv work, if I understood that correctly. Tell me about that. What were you doing?
So I was very lucky in that when I first got here, my like second week of school, I auditioned for the improv team, which at the time was a very like big deal at NYU. And I was fortunate enough to get on that team and immediately was like, cool, I now have the social structure that will inform my entire college experience, which is like, I have these like upperclassmen friends who are completely obsessed with comedy, very, very talented. We all, again, it was just lucky where it's like, this is a fit. And so, and everybody here takes it so seriously, which I loved.
Yeah.
So we would rehearse, usually 2 nights a week we would rehearse, where we would like have dinner together, and then we'd go let ourselves into a classroom we weren't supposed to be in and drill scene work and improv forms for a couple hours. And then sometimes it would be like, okay, it's late. The lights are out. It's like midnight. Everybody's exhausted. We're going to stay and just like lay on the floor in the dark in these classrooms and run bats, which is an improv form in the dark. Just like everybody's sleepy, but we still want to do it. So that's how we're going to treat ourselves in the final hour of rehearsal, is being like, everybody can lay down and close their eyes, but we're still doing improv. And then, that group also just like, I think we're obsessed with it and with each other. So we all ended up like living together and spending every night together and just, going to a lot of UCB shows together, watching a lot of Reno 911 on laptops in dorm rooms together. So that was, yes. And then I also, when I was in college, took classes at UCB and interned at UCB.
So you had found your people.
Yeah, for sure.
That team, how many people are on it, and how often are you performing?
That team was 8 people.
Wow.
And we would perform officially at the university, I think, once a month. And then would do like weird gigs, occasionally where it's like, okay, the Yale team is coming into the city and they want to split an hour with us at some weird little theater uptown, where we'd be like, okay, we do that sort of thing. And then we would go to festivals. So we would travel to like, Georgetown or down to North Carolina or up to Skidmore or wherever that we'd probably do 5 to 8 of those a year, where we would all go for like a weekend and do shows at other colleges. 8
is not that many. And
I know.
Was it pretty much universal that all those people wanted to seek this out for their career?
I think for the most part. I think in any given lineup of 8, there were maybe 2 or 3 people that were like, yeah, I love this, or this is fun, but I'm not planning to do it for my life, maybe. And then the other, 6 or 7 people were like, I am in some form. And most are now.
And for those that were, the dream for most of them was what? What was the path? What were they aiming for?
I'd say about half and half of us were in the like writing program at Tisch and the acting program at Tisch. So I think in different combinations, and that's the thing with like sketch and improv and solo character work, is like you kind of fostering skills as a writer and an actor. And so I think a lot of us kind of knew, and there's been a lot of like flip-flops too, where it's like, okay, people who maybe trained in the writing program are now actors, or people who trained in the acting program are now writers, or somebody who trained in the pre-med program is now an actor. That's like I think we all had a vague idea of, we want to work in comedy. We would love to be TV writers or auditioning for shows or doing shows at UCB. Like, we just want to be doing it in some form. And at the time, I think for the most part, that felt like television, even though all of our work was live. But it seemed like, oh yeah, the professional training programs that we're in, most of the comedy work is television facing.
So eventually, I assume you graduate.
Yes.
Did you get your diploma?
I did.
Good for you. What did you do? Where were you in terms of your ambition at that point, and what physically, like, what did you go do when you got done with college?
I pretty immediately moved to Los Angeles. I think around that time I was at UCB a lot, interning, and had kind of gotten the feedback, or had really seen around that time there had been a ton of turnover of like, okay, the people that I came up watching on Herald Night, most of them had like moved to LA and they were on TV now. And so that I think at some point got some feedback of like, you could like hang out here and do house teams here and whatever, but you also could just move to LA, and most people are moving out there anyway, or, you know, you could do 5 years here and then move out here, which is what a lot of people have done. But if you maybe are savvy, you just go now and kind of get in on the ground floor out there at UCB LA, so that you don't have to move out there in 5 years and start over.
Yeah.
And so I did that. I moved to LA and didn't really know anybody. But I did end up like performing at UCB LA a lot and doing like Herald Night and Mod Night and all this stuff out there. And then over the next several years, most of my friends who I had gone to college with out here moved out there as well in sort of a slow trickle. And now they're all out there and I'm back here.
At that time, the goal was to do improv rather than characters. Is that where your head was at that point?
Yeah, I think at that time when I was graduating, I was very focused on improv just because I think I had done a lot of it in college and I liked it. And those were the classes that were available. So at UCB, those were the classes I was taking and I liked them. And then, but I also at that time had an idea. I think I had seen a couple of like solo character shows and had an idea of like, ooh, I want to do a show like that ultimately I would end up writing and doing a couple of years later, but I think just like didn't quite. I remember like sitting down and sort of like trying to chip away at it or trying to figure out how to write it. And I think maybe just having an underdeveloped skill set for that in that moment. And so spending a couple more years figuring out like, okay, I'm doing a ton more shows. Now I'm doing more sketch stuff. Now I'm doing more scripted stuff. Now I'm just like building up those muscles of writing and figuring out how to write for myself as a performer rather than just sort of how I use myself as an improviser. And then eventually doing that show. Which was like a solo character show where I played a bunch of different characters, but it also had sort of a like overriding narrative conceit to it.
So at this point, you're really actually going for it and you're trying to make this real. Your lawyerly father and your teacher mother, how is that conversation going? I guess they must have known you were heading in the artistic direction given your major, but. Yeah.
I mean, I think they were always supportive. I think they're a funny mix where they're not very interested, but they're supportive. I think like they're like, oh, like I think they're excited at the prospect of like, wow, that seems neat, or that would be so cool. If you got to do that work, great, go for it. Like, you know, they've been like always very supportive, but I do feel like they're not like, I don't know. They like they're not that interested in the arts in like performing arts or like it's not. I don't think they really understand what I do or how I do it in a way that it's like they don't dislike it. They do support it. They don't see it very often. You know, I think they don't know how to ask about it. I think they don't understand how the process works at all, which is kind of nice. It's kind of a nice distance of knowing like, okay. Because I know plenty of people where it's like, oh, their parents do more understand how what we do works. And I think my parents are still very much in a place where it's like, I'll do some show and my mom will be like, yeah, I can tell this character is based on a girl that you went to junior high with that I know, where I'll be like, not at all. Right. No, nope. That's not how it works, but totally. Yeah, whatever.
You see what you see.
Yeah. Great. Yes.
Do you have comedians in your family? Are you an anomaly?
Not comedians, but I do think, I think people in my family are funny, or I think humor is very much valued in my family. I think both my parents are funny in very different ways. My siblings are all funny in very different ways. And I think also like my dad's a trial lawyer and his dad was a trial lawyer. So I think there's some amount of like
Speech.
performance. Yeah. Yeah.
How did you end up back in New York?
So when COVID came and the infrastructure of the life that I had built in LA completely fell away. At that time, I decided to have a baby. So just kind of thinking like, okay, well, I won't be auditioning or performing. And this is something that had maybe been pinned for like several years down the line. But I don't know if there's going to be a year where no one is going to be seeing me. Maybe now is the time to do it. So my husband and I had a baby, and when we found out we were pregnant, moved up to Idaho to spend the time with my family be like, cool, we'll go there for like a year, hang out in Idaho, breathe the fresh air, walk in the hills, have this baby. And then we were thinking we would move back to LA. And then kind of when push came to shove and it was time to go back to LA, I was looking at like apartments back in LA and also started looking at places out here. One of my brothers lives here and I've always liked it better out here and kind of been like, oh man, like I wish I could get a gig that would take me back to New York. Like I just like living here a lot better. And so at that time ended up finding a like too good to be true lease takeover on a place out here and was like, well, it's less expensive to move back to New York than it is to move back to LA, which feels kind of rare. So why not just let's do it? And if it really doesn't work, we can always go back to LA. It'll always be there. So we pulled the trigger, came out here, and I'm so glad that we did because I love it here.
This was 2021 when you came out here? 2021. Did you already have a comedy job lined up, an improv job lined up?
No.
How did you hit the ground running to try to make that real?
I mean, well, I did throughout all of this time, I had been like teaching and coaching online. So I taught online throughout the pandemic for UCB. I taught character work and then would like direct shows via Zoom. So if people were developing like solo shows or sketch shows or things like that, I did and continue to like do that as a facet of my career. And then, both my husband and I both have always had components of our careers where it's like, and this weird voiceover job and that weird writing job and this weird commercial, like whatever it is, just kind of like piecing all of the little stuff together. So that's kind of what we had been doing even when we were in Idaho. Also, frankly, like being there and living with family for a year was like, okay, so we're like saving money. We're not paying rent. We're not, that was like great to then have that savings and kind of ride it out here and know like, all right, we got some like cushion to be out here as things take a little while to get back up and running.
When you got back up here, was UCB getting back there on your radar at that time?
No.
Or I'm guessing probably it wasn't.
No, not at all. I think at that point we believed it was gone for good out here.
And so was teaching your idea about how you would be able to support yourself in New York? Where was your head at in terms of where your career was likely going to go, where you wanted it to go?
Somewhat. I think it was a really weird time because I had always in LA worked as like, or had different jobs if I needed to, as far as like a babysitter, or like a nanny or an assistant, personal assistant, like different stuff. Definitely a lot of improv coaching or a lot of teaching and that sort of thing. And so I think kind of knowing like, okay, well, I'm teaching online with UCB, so they may never have a like in-person location out in New York again, but I can continue to teach online as long as they have online classes, which they do to this day. And then, I think part of it just kind of being like, well, let's see what happens. Let's see what the landscape is like. Let's see what's out there. And then kind of move out there, get new New York commercial agents and hit the ground a little bit.
You said you've always liked New York more than LA. What do you like? What is it about this place that you think for you suits you better than Los Angeles?
I think something I've appreciated a lot recently is like just the hangout culture here of like you do a show and then everybody hangs out, or you have a rehearsal and you can kind of like walk around and you know, there's constantly things that are like driving you out of your home. And also just like, oh, if you leave your home, you could be out all day, just sort of like jumping from one thing to the next. Whereas in LA car culture, it's like, okay,
see ya.
Yeah, it's just hard to get anywhere to come anywhere or not flake on anything because people don't want to drive. People get stuck in traffic. They don't want to find parking. It's just much more of a like homebody culture. It's hard to get people to gather regularly. Whereas here it's like, we're gathering several nights a week. It's great. It's so fun. Also, the change of seasons, which being in LA creeped me out a lot because it's like every day is the same hot day. Some people love it. It's not for me. And then also just like, I don't know. I think there's a certain, this is so pretentious, but I stand by it. I think out here, there's a, at least in the like comedy circles that I am a part of, more of an approach to work as like, this is like art. This is like worthy art. And it's like, it has its own inherent value. Versus in LA, I think even the UCB culture I experienced out there, it's just like that much closer to the industry. So there were a lot of gross ways in which it was like, what is valued here is who is the most physically attractive. Like, it's just like everything is seen as like, how do we get people on TV? How do we get like, do shows here, do whatever. But there's just a constant awareness of like, who got what outside of the theater? Somebody got this audition. Therefore, they are more valuable inside of the ecosystem of UCB, even if their work is not very good.
Yeah.
This person, I mean, being in like meetings at the theater where they would talk about like, this person has a look that we think means they could be on TV. So we're going to just treat them better at the theater, even if they're just not that good yet. You know, whatever it is, that feels like people are kind of constantly scrambling for angles on trying to just like touch larger success. Whereas I don't know, I've landed in a really sweet pocket of people out here that I love deeply that just feels more, I don't know, just like, this is your life and this is your life's work. And would we all like to be better compensated for it more regularly? Yes. And would we all like our work to have more budgeting and resourcing put into it? Absolutely. More visibility so that we didn't have to also do all of our own marketing? Yes. But I think there is just a feeling or an appreciation of like, this is it and we love this. This is valuable. And it's not all just sort of a like slap together effort to try to make people more visible for things that are shinier.
To try to get famous.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. How did the UCB opportunity for you come around? You told me, I think, a little bit offline about when it booted up again. I think a year ago-ish, something like that. Out here, yeah. Yeah.
So at that point, I just auditioned. I just, was like, okay, they're coming back up. They're going to hold auditions. This is the program, the solo character program that I would want to be involved in. I think, I had done my time in LA in my early 20s doing Herald Night and doing Mod Night and learning a lot. And it was super fun and super valuable, but also knowing like, cool, for where I'm at in my life and career now, like this is the thing that is valuable to me. And the work that I really love to do is this solo character work. So that's one of these programs that I would seek out. I think when I first got my first manager in LA and was on Herald Night and Mod Night and whatever, she was very much like, cool. That's so awesome. There is nothing I can do with that. Like, please stop doing improv so much. It's like, great. Yes, I do see how now it seems so obvious how useless that is for you as a professional tool for me. But yeah, so I think I just auditioned for that team. And then we had a prolonged waiting period where we knew we had been placed on the team, but the team wasn't meeting yet. We didn't know when the theater would open. And then we finally started meeting on Zoom, which was nice, but also sucked.
Yeah.
And then, a little over a year ago, when we finally started getting to have like, okay, we got in-person rehearsals, we got in-person shows, it felt like, all right, we're like cooking with gas now.
How did you determine that solo characters was really your sweet spot? of all the things you've done, it sounds like that's what you love the most, what you want to focus on. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, but if that's true, how did you learn that specific angle was what you wanted to really focus on?
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked writing for myself. I think especially being a like younger woman or like something I would encounter in college, frankly, it was like, okay, you're expected to have this many scenes or this many monologues all the time and be constantly bringing them in for classes. And frankly, like finding it really hard to find appropriate monologues that weren't done to death that also were like in any way good or interesting to me. And so I would write them for myself and just make up a fake play name and a fake playwright to attribute them to, which was great, which was really fun to be like, okay, great. Like now I can set myself up to do what I want to do as an actor. And it's in the pocket of my own sensibility and my own timing. And I can use my own type that I think felt like very fun and also just like useful. And so doing that more, also just, being like, even in sketch, I think as a younger woman, the roles are so thankless, or it's like, oh, cool, I'm going to be asked to be in this sketch show, or I'm going to be asked to be in this, video sketch that my friends are making. And I am the girlfriend again, who is being like, guys, stop, seriously stop, you guys, it's not funny. Or like whatever. That's like, yes, that is like a million sketches that I was asked to do in my early 20s and just kind of being like, yeah, I don't know.
You don't play dum-dum.
I do. I love to play a specific dum-dum, but I want to control the dum-dum. I don't, So I think it's like solo character work is a thing that is like, I get to choose how I want to use myself. I get to set myself up as an actor in a way that like other people would never probably use me. And then I just like doing a little monologue. It's fun. I like the rhythm of it. I like the challenge of it. I like the structure of it. That it's kind of a nice to be able to see something through from the beginning of the process of like, here's a little germ of an idea that I have that sometimes isn't even a premise. It's just a feeling or it's just a specific that I like. And then being able to build that out and see if you can achieve it, and knowing that it's like, oh, I can do something so much more specific than if I was writing it for someone else because I control how to execute it. So I know that oftentimes it will live or die on like emotional or energetic shifts that, if you're a good writer, you have to be able to communicate that to other actors and have them be able to execute it. But there's something very nice about being able to know like, all right, this is for me. So I can write to set myself up for success as an actor, and then I can execute as an actor in a way that will serve this writing.
I would love to talk about the survival component to living in New York, doing this kind of work as a mom.
Yeah.
How have you made that possible? I know you probably are still doing some form of teaching. You obviously perform. I'd love to maybe direct this question for people that might be listening to this who want to come here at some point and are like, it just seems so daunting.
Totally.
How have you made this work?
It varies year to year. I mean, it is, I think, kind of like piecing a lot of stuff together all the time, having a lot of moving pieces all the time. Something nice about New York, a lot of people don't know, is there's 3K. So like my daughter, where it's like she had no childcare. My husband and I would like switch off in shifts for her first 3 years when we would be working, and we both are in this field. So we had the flexibility where we could do that. Yeah. But now once they turn 3, they get to go to school in public schools, which is amazing. And then a lot of my work is at night. So knowing like, okay, during the daytime, like I will write and I'll do other stuff when she's at school. And sometimes I'll like coach when she's at school, or I'll do like Zoom directing work, auditions for sure, self-tapes, the occasional shoot for something during the day. But also just as far as the like consistent pillars of like my teaching, coaching, directing work, a lot, and also just like rehearsals and shows, most of it is at night. So knowing like I'm out every night between the things that pay me and the things that I want to do. so it is like, yeah, but that's the life that I choose. Or no, like, yeah, I'll be with my kid during the day. And then if she has some form of coverage during the day, I'll get my writing done or I'll get my other stuff done where I can in those little pockets. And then at night she's asleep. So she's usually home with my husband or occasionally like a babysitter neighbor, that's like, okay, you can kind of piece it together that way. Or that's at least how I've been able to piece it together thus far. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Has having a child, being a mom here, felt very often completely impossible, given also that you're a performer? I'm assuming you and your husband must be balancing this quite a lot. Like responsibilities. But I'd love to be, for people that may want to have, they kind of want to have it all. Like they'd love to have a family and they'd love to be a performer of some kind in the city.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to hear about that.
It is. I mean, it's tricky in that our time is a zero-sum game where it's like, okay, yeah, if one of us is out, the other is with her. Otherwise, we're paying for it.
Yeah.
So as much as possible, we try not to pay for it. And occasionally I'll have things where it's like, okay, like some directing work that I do will occasionally be like, all right, if this is just a writer's meeting, we'll do it on Zoom so that I can be home with my daughter while she's asleep if my husband is out doing something that night, sort of thing. That is nice. But if there's an in-person rehearsal I need to be at, then we'll try to schedule it so that he's home on those nights. And he does a lot less performing at this point. So that's not as much of a conflict.
He's an artist as well?
Yes.
Okay.
But he doesn't really do shows at night anymore, which has made it very possible because that's just opened up a whole avenue of my life. Yeah. And I think, knowing like it is hard. It is hard. It's fun, but it is exhausting to just know like, cool, I'm going to be out probably until like 11 or 12, pretty much every night. And then up at 6 to take somebody to 3K, that's like kind of the grind. And yeah, it is like, I think at different points it's felt like more manageable or less manageable. I think for the most part, like I'm energized at night, so I like it. I don't mind it. I don't feel like dragged down by it. I like being out. I like being at rehearsal. I like doing shows. But it's definitely exhausting. Or I had cancer last year. And so when I was in like that treatment was like, okay, I need to figure out what I can pull back on to make this sustainable, but ultimately figured out that it's like, well, doing these rehearsals and doing these shows is not draining to me. It is like energizing to me. So having that recognition of like, cool, even when there are various different factors of like stuff that is just, it is draining, it is exhausting in its own way, knowing like, this is not that. This is, I get something from this that makes it work for me. And I think if it felt differently, that wouldn't work for me. Like if I felt tired going to rehearsal, or if I felt like, oh, these shows are like wearing me out, I wouldn't do it anymore. Because that's not, you can't live that way.
Yeah. You had cancer last year? What?
Yes.
Are you okay?
I am.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yes, I'm a year out. I had breast cancer last year. So I did like, as UCB was opening, our first couple months of shows was like, okay, I'm like in chemo and having surgeries and doing all this stuff. I did a crazy thing where they freeze your head so your hair doesn't fall out. It almost never works, but it worked for me. So it was a crazy time of being like, okay, cool. I'm like doing all of this and nobody really knows. Or I think my teammates knew after a point because I had to be like, I won't be here next week. But it was like, yes, I think that was a big check on how do I feel about this? Yeah. And the very clear answer that I came away with was like, oh no, I like need this. This is like what I'm living for. Like I have to spend my time this way. This is the only way I want to spend my time. I don't want to break. I don't want to like miss rehearsal. That feels bad. That's what makes me feel depleted.
Yeah. I'd love to talk a little more about that if you're open to it. Like that I can only imagine how much of a reality check that must have been.
Totally.
For prioritizing how you're spending this limited zero-sum resource of your time. Is there anything else to add to that of like how it affected you and changed your habits or thinking about how you're living?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I think that was like, because I definitely had a period, I think, in my late 20s of feeling like, oh, like, I've been doing all these shows for all these years, and I was feeling more depleted. I was feeling more like, oh, I'm like exhausted. I'm piecing together all of these different like day job work with all of my performance work, with all of my teaching and coaching work, and it's not a very sustainable schedule year over year over year. And so like how to reach the point of feeling like I just don't like, I have to get a gig, like I have to book a show, or I have to get a staff job, or like something that is more consistent and just like better paid. And that's obviously still a like pressure and a desire, but I think I think having the reality check on that and being like, okay, that may never happen. And so is this like, this is it. This is your life.
Yeah.
This is how you're spending your time. This is what you're doing every day. These are the days are the life, you know, that I think, yeah, it just made me kind of feel like fucking whatever. Like, if I can make it work, I want to make it work because this is how I want to spend my life and my time. And it's joyful, and it is still challenging to me in the ways that I like to be challenged. And I'm very lucky to get to be working with a community of people that I'm really inspired by and really love working with, and who I feel are working at a really high level. So that's just so engaging and such a gift. And I think for a while that was a huge part of the pressure that I felt, is like, I want to be able to work at a higher level. I want to be able to like, you know, work with people who are on the top of their game and with more resourcing. And obviously at this point it's like, well, we don't have more resourcing, but I am able to work with people who are absolutely at the top of their game, who are so good at what they do. And that's, to me, it's, you know, where it's like, yeah, I love that. I feel like over the past year, at some point having a realization of like, I'll be at this like 3-hour rehearsal, and then late at night we'll have another hour on the train home with a couple buddies from rehearsal where we're all just still obsessed about talking about this stuff together. And that's heaven to me. That, you know, like that 11 p.m. hour on the train going home and being like, yes, this is like, again, this is like, I can spend my life this way if I can stay afloat enough to do that. It doesn't have to happen on some higher level. It's
its own wealth. It's its own form of wealth, or a certain kind of wealth.
Yes. So I need to like keep myself and my family like afloat enough so that I can do that. Because at a point it's like, oh yeah, if you like aren't able to strike that balance enough, then you just only have so much time.
Yeah.
And you have to start taking some time from over here and putting it over here. But I think at least for now, feeling like, yeah, I think that was, the largest feeling is like, cool. I could be suspended in this time doing this work, and that's like meaningful to me if I can continue to pull that off.
Is that, I think you just answered this basically, but how do you think about what it, you know, everybody would love to get compensated more and have more resourcing, I think is how you put it. How do you think about what it means for you to be successful in your career? And maybe it's already what you just said, the 3-hour sessions and the hour train ride. What to you, when you think of the future for yourself, would be a successful career?
Yeah, I mean, I think we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I do think it is, to me at this point, feeling like, oh, I want to be able to do work that I care about, that I think is good, and I want to be able to afford to do that. Yeah. Like I want to be able to afford both, just like in my life, not feeling like scrambling and panicked all the time, and continue to be like, I have health insurance for me and my child. You know, like I don't want to live under the thumb of that like constant stress of like, oh my God, if I don't like book this thing, then I'm fucked, you know, or like whatever. But yeah, I want to be able to make things that I think are good with people that I want to work with. And I want to feel like, oh, our efforts to do that are not severely impacted by just like not having the resources to do it. I want to feel like, oh yeah, like so much of the work we do is so scrappy, and I love that about it. Or there's so much like creative problem solving that goes into it. But then sometimes I'm so jealous, like seeing a shitty play that has an amazing set, you know, and just being like, ugh, how did they get this amazing set? The script is dog shit. You know, it's like, So definitely sometimes I'm like, yeah, like I would love to be able to execute the work that we are trying to do at like a higher level and just have it supported in the ways that it would benefit from. But beyond that, that's, like I want to be able to work and live enough to do that work.
If you're comfortable talking about it, I'd love to hear about how terrified you were when you got that news. I mean, that wasn't that long ago, so it must be pretty fresh. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. I mean, in a weird way, it felt kind of inevitable. I have a extremely strong family history, and I had found out somewhat recently that I had a genetic mutation.
Yeah.
So I don't have BRCA, which is the common one, but I have one called PALB2. So I knew like lifetime, I had a very high risk of having breast cancer. And I didn't expect to have it quite as young, but I also knew like several women in my family had had it in their 30s or 40s. And so, I mean, it also kind of like rolled out in stages a little bit where like I was like on a scanning protocol at MSK where every 6 months I would alternate between MRIs and mammograms was the plan. And so I had one mammogram and been like, you're clean. And then 6 months later I had my first MRI and they were like, okay, we found something, where I was kind of like, okay, fuck, it's over. It's that. And then they were like, it's actually not. We biopsied it. It's it's benign abnormal cells. Where I was kind of like, okay. But that had already kind of planted the seed of like,
this could be coming.
How benign, you know? Yeah. So then 6 months later, I actually had another MRI just for that reason, where they're like, let's just be safe and do another MRI in 6. So I did that. And at that point, they determined that it was DCIS, which is ductal carcinoma in situ. It's also colloquially referred to as like stage 0 cancer, meaning that it's like, oh, it is cancerous cells are there, but they are contained inside the ductwork that makes it impossible for the cancer to have spread. Yeah. So that is a like safer, like lower risk form. And if you catch it that early, you're good. And so that kind of felt like, damn, that like sucks. But glad we caught it this early. And so I don't have to worry about the stress of having an invasive cancer. Yeah. After I had surgery, the pathology came back and they were like, actually, it was invasive. And we did find like invasive tumors in the pathology that we didn't see on the MRI. So that kind of changed the game. And that meant that I had to do chemo and endocrine therapy and all this other stuff where it's like, okay, that kind of, I think, was the constant little shift of like, there might be something, it's actually probably nothing. Okay, actually it is something, but it's easy. Actually, it is a little worse, was like, in one way, I think gave my brain time to adjust to each new step a little bit, but then also sucked because it felt like a rug pull of like, damn, like I had really oriented my expectation around this one situation. Yeah. And then now having to like reframe and reorient the like risk and the treatment and all of the different things like definitely sucked. To kind of go from being like, oh fuck, I thought this surgery was like the end of my treatment road rather than the beginning, and I'm now learning it's the beginning. But that said, I was lucky to respond well to treatment and have a really great team at MSK and have access to really great treatment. And so was able to kind of get it all done as aggressively as possible. And then have had the past year to sort of be like, okay, cool. Like I'm back to life and I'm no longer in active treatment. And that I think in its own way has been like a weird adjustment period that I had heard is common. But yeah.
So it moved from stage 0 to stage 1,
to stage 2?
Stage
1B ultimately.
1B. Is that less serious than 1A?
It's more serious than
It's more
1A.
serious,
So I think
okay.
what that means is it speaks to both the sizing of the tumor, which is very small, but then also I think the B is because they found what they call micrometastasis in one lymph node. So they don't consider you lymph node positive. I think if they find over a certain number of cells or a tumor of a certain size in a lymph node, then it's like, okay, you're lymph node positive. That indicates a higher risk or a higher likelihood of spread. Whereas in my case, they're like, we found this tiny amount of cells in your very first lymph node that we biopsied. And then we could also see that it hasn't left that lymph node. There's like I forget what it's called, but some like tail that they track to see like, okay, we can see if these cells have arrived at and then left this lymph node. And they were saying like, we can see that like they have arrived here, but they haven't left here. And it's such a small number of them that we don't consider it a positive finding. But that does result in the B.
It sounds like the entire experience was very affirming for how you were living, if I understand it correctly, generally.
Yeah, I think so. Where it's kind of like, yeah, definitely a check on kind of, yeah, like, I don't know, it's your one life. You could be fucking dead anytime. You know, you really could. Like,
so
this is it. So like, are you in your life every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last question I would love to ask is about advice you would have for younger people who want to do what you do or who want to get into the arts in New York. And I want to keep this very open-ended, but what advice, what would you provide? What knowledge have you gained about what has been helpful to actually create a life in the arts, in improv, that you've had to learn through experience that you would share with a friend or a younger version of yourself?
Yeah, I think like truly at any stage of the work that I've done on any level, going back to being a teenager, doing short form in Idaho, it's the people. It's knowing like, find the people that you like, find the people that you click with. That is how you will grow. That is how you will have enough like support and safety structures to be able to really challenge yourself and try things and push yourself. And it's also how you will even realize that certain things are possible because you're going to see it in other people, and other people are going to like introduce you to new ideas. And also just like, that's the joy of it. To me is like, on the one hand, it's like, I completely understand why so much of the comedy landscape has shifted now to being like, it's TikTokers, it's, you know, it's influencers, it's whatever. They're by themselves in their room doing their thing. Awesome. That's its own thing. Like that's its own, it feels like a different sport than what I do in some ways. But I feel like to me, to do what I do, knowing like, oh my God, like it's all about the people. And I think making it something that you can continue to like deepen in and grow in and build consistency in, so that you're like, oh, I don't have to be like, oh no, this one thing I did was funny, but this other thing isn't funny. And I can't trust myself to be consistent, and knowing like, to me, consistency is it. So it's like, if you want to operate at a professional level and be able to have enough trust with yourself to be able to do the type of work that you want to make and endeavor to push yourself forward in exploring the work you want to make, like you have to trust that you can maybe pull it off. And I think in doing that, knowing like it's not going to be short-term satisfying, like it won't, like you just have to invest in a lifestyle practice of building this relationship with yourself and with other people to support that whole thing, I think. And knowing like, cool. So then if you also are like having a weird time where you're not connecting to whatever you're trying to do, you can turn to the people around you that you trust, and they can see you and help you figure it out. Or if you're feeling like, damn, I'm like killing it right now, I'm really feeling like I'm in the pocket with what I'm trying to do, you also are on that ride with these other people who can help you get the most out of that experience. And also just like practically knowing like any opportunity or job or whatever that I've ever gotten, it's because of the other people. It's because you do a show with somebody and they're like, oh, I like working with you. Hey, come do this other show. Oh, hey, I want to recommend you for this job. Oh, hey, I want, you know, like that. I think like building a good network of relationships with people that you trust and love working with, and being able to show up with them and for them consistently, in my opinion, is the whole point.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Haley, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.